You can definitely do like a two-handed sword pose like this. DorkLair! Welcome to another DorkLair action figure review. Today I'm taking a look at the Animals of the Warrior Kingdom 6-inch Primal Series Pale in adventure armor from Spero Toys. And before I start this video off, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to not only Spero Toys for sending me this review copy, but also for the community, basically the DorkLair community. I put it out there that if anybody was in the community who was getting the Kickstarter in early and wanted to loan me one so that I could get a review up, because I unfortunately did not back this Kickstarter, though I think I will be purchasing some of these separately when they go in stock. But anyway, so I asked if anybody would want to lend me any of theirs. And so quite a few DorkLair denizens who ordered them offered to loan me their figures. But one crafty devil decided to message Jason Bienvenue, who actually is the owner and creator of Animals of the Warrior Kingdom. And he offered to send me one direct from Spero Toys. So thank you again, DorkLair community, and especially to you, Jason. Thank you very much. I do have Pale here, and I have the weapons pack. So we've got a couple little pieces to take a look at today. And so my initial impressions of Pale are that I do like it quite a bit. This figure moves really well. It's got a lot of character, some really cool weapons and parts. So let's get him out of this action pose and get into this review. Okay, first up, a look at the packaging, and this is a pretty standard window box style, collector-friendly packaging. There's artwork on the side. And then on the back, we have the other figures in the wave. And I'm trying to figure out who I'm going to order next. And I think I'm kind of leaning towards Chunari. And then on this side, there's some more window with sort of a natural pattern over here. Info about Spero Toys on the bottom. And then nothing much at the top. Zooming in for a close-up of Pale, our hero of the line. He's sort of the one on the mission to defeat the Emperor or what have you. Again, I don't really know too much about the story, but there's a little bit on the back of the box with the bio. But I love that head sculpt. This, to me, is the highlight of the figure. Head sculpt is definitely a highlight for me. And there's not a ton of paint, but it has it where it counts. You know, the eyes are painted well. You've got the two tones between the gray flesh and the sort of white fur. I think generally speaking, it's cast in the lighter gray, the white-ish looking color, and then the darker gray is painted on. So that chest area looks to be painted, whereas the arms are cast in that color. And I think this armor piece is cast in that mid-range red right there, and then the other reds are painted on there with some metallics. And you've got all that fur sculpted in there. It's a little bit light, so it might be slightly washed out in these lights, but a lot of detail there. A little unfortunate that they had to go with the exposed pegs right there. A lot of companies are doing the hidden pegs now, but you never know. Maybe in future waves, they'll start to, make some upgrades to it. If you look closely, the ape chest is not perfectly smooth. It definitely has a texture to it, the way, an ape's chest would rather than like human skin. So nice little detail there. I love all the somewhat geometrical shapes in the armor and stuff because it contrasts with the organic nature of the fur. And yeah, so that kind of gives it a nice contrast, not just the colors, but also the sculpts. And he's got some pockets sculpted into this harness that has a slot for a weapon, some paint up top there on the pad area, little pop of blue in the knees. And then the rest of the armor is very similar to the other parts. And you can look at the feet sculpture. Bottom of the feet have a little bit of detail and some peg holes. So very cool, super clean, heroic ape character. And here's a look at Pale in a vanilla pose, so you can just get an overall sense of his silhouette. And the top of the mohawk crests just above 7 inches. And for some comparisons, let's start with a look at Pale next to a couple Mythic Legions figures. On the left is Sir Gerard. On the right is a kit bash using only parts from the 2 Furious 4 figures. Next up, here's Pale with a Valaverse Action Force figure. On the left is the Swarm, and on the right is a Mezco 112 Collective Conan the Conqueror. Next, we have a couple Masterverse figures. On the left is Zodak from New Eternia, and on the right is a kit-bashed He-Man using the 40th anniversary body with the Viking parts and a custom head sculpt from Monster Machine Creations, painted by EM Custom Parts, Eric Miller. Finally, a couple comic book figures. On the left is the retro green goblin from Marvel Legends, and on the right is the Dark Knight Returns Superman from Mafex. Next up for accessories, he comes with a whole bunch of weapons. All of them are pretty much painted in this same color scheme, but he has this kind of short sword type scimitar here. He's got an axe, and the sculpting is fantastic. These pieces are really nice. These are great weapons right here. A lot of little details, even in the blades, in the handles. Some nice paintwork there too. A weapon I really like is this sort of dagger type weapon that has almost a punching edge on this end. So you could kind of wield it like as a back and forth type weapon with like a slicing blade and a puncturing type weapon on this side. And then the final two weapons he has is this pair of hook-shaped knives, almost like claws or something like that. And again, painted in that same two-tone look, but lots of intricate little details sculpted in there. He comes with 3 sets of hands. First of all, we have a pair of gripping hands right here, and these have alternate hinges. So his left hand has a horizontal hinge, and his right hand has a vertical hinge. So that's a nice little touch right there, having the 2 different hinge directions on those hands. And then he's got a pair of gesturing hands, and these are both horizontal hinged, but nice touch there. Great for posing and photography to have some gesturing hands or potentially grabbing onto some larger items. And the third and final set is a pair of fists for your hand-to-hand combat, and both of those are also on horizontal hinges. Okay, next up for articulation, I just wanted to point out that I did heat this figure up really well, and that was per the instructions it came with. But I tend to heat my figures up anyway, especially in wintertime when you're going to get huge swings in temperature as these figures travel. One thing I did do that's probably my fault was I was articulating the figure in a really extreme pose, and I had this neck piece and I wasn't paying attention to this tail or ponytail type thing, and it's starting to separate over here. For me, it's not a big deal. All I got to do is just glue that back down. But just be aware of that. If you're going extreme with your poses, you're going to want to like hold this and then move it around, right? And then get it in your position and then, take a shot or just leave it in your position and then kind of mess around with just keeping that mohawk in place, because that's a separate piece that's glued into this head and it could come undone, especially if you're like heating it up like crazy like I have been and like really doing extreme poses with it. And so getting into the neck articulation, he can look up quite a bit and he can look down, and as you can see, there's multiple points of articulation in the neck. You can get a little gap right there if your neck isn't, forward a little bit, but if you want to see the construction under there, it's got a ball joint at the base of the neck, and then it has a hinge and ball at the top. And so you can get a lot of good range of motion in that neck right there. Head pops on and off very easily. In the shoulders, you have a really nice butterfly joint. The arms can come all the way across. He can definitely do like two-handed weapon poses. And then getting into the shoulders, they can hinge up well past 90 degrees. Tons of motion there. They can, of course, spin around all the way. There's a twist at the bicep that has free range to spin all the way around. He does have a double jointed elbow with a ton of range. The wrists have hinges, and then the peg swivels, and some of the wrists have horizontal, some have vertical. This figure really shines in the waist and torso articulation. It's got a classic Marvel Legends style crunch forward and then back, just tons of range. And then it's got a ball joint at the waist. Without the crunch, it can go forward this far and it can go back this far. It can twist at that waist all the way around, and then it can rock side to side. So when you combine those 2 points of articulation, like you're getting Spider-Man level articulation on this guy. It's pretty crazy. For hip articulation, there's a ball joint at the hips, and then there's a twist at the thigh. He can come out into the splits. He can kick back, forward quite a bit. This is going to limit things a little bit, but you could push it and get that leg pretty far out there. And then you've got the double jointed knees. And then down at the ankles, you do have a hinge with a wide range of forward and back motion, and then you have an ankle rocker as well that can go as wide as you would ever need it to be. Probably the one limitation in the legs is that The only twist is at the top. It's at that thigh. There's no twist below that point. There's no twist above or below the knee, which again is kind of one of the trade-offs of having double jointed knees and elbows, is you can't really put a twist in there, at least not with this particular construction. And there's no twist at the ankle. It's just that rocker. So really just that one limitation. Other than that, it has incredible range of motion. Do be careful with that mohawk with separation. Otherwise, the figure, the build quality, all of that is really well done. And I just wanted to show what he looks like with his gear off of him. Like, all that gear is removable. Some of it's easier than others. Obviously, the gauntlets are going to be super easy to take off, and that shoulder strap easy to take off. You do need to heat and pop the legs. I didn't get it off at the waist. I popped the legs off to get the skirt piece off of there. And then I was able to get the lower leg armor off by really, really heating up the feet. They have those mushroom joints that can be difficult to remove, but not too bad. But I was able to get those off as well. And so, yeah, like some of the parts you could potentially use on other figures. Like, here's a look at one of those arm guards on the Masterverse Buck. Like, that works really well right there. And so, yeah, if you're curious, there's a look at the figure without the stuff on him. And then here's how he looks with some of the gear, the cloth goods and whatnot from that new Mezco Conan. And I think that looks pretty cool. I mean, I don't have it positioned perfectly here, especially on that side, but, you definitely got some possibilities with this body and possible, part swaps and kit bashes and stuff with other figures. And finally, if you're into kitting out your figures with all sorts of fun accessories, they do sell some accessories packs, and Spero was kind enough to send out one of the accessory packs, the pack that actually matches up with Pale's armor parts. So it comes with this spear with a detachable head. It comes with a pair of these axes. It comes with this, again, which is that same sort of dagger type piece with the spike on the end. Comes with a set of the same hook blade knives, same scimitar type sword, and again, all in this like reddish, rusty kind of color. And then it does come with a bow. And so you can see the difference in paint application between the accessory kit and the ones that he comes with. There's a look right there. Anyway, this figure rocks. I think Spero Toys has a real success on their hands with this line. These are very cool. A lot of people are excited about them. Let me know in the comments below which Animal Warriors you picked up. Don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, may the Force be with you.